At my father's funeral, my stepmother claimed everything, but she forgot one detail. I'm Natalie Carter, 33 years old, a freelance photographer who spent the last decade chasing light across Colorado's jagged peaks. Until 3 months ago, my life was a steady hum, snapping shots of snowy trails for magazines, sipping coffee in my Denver loft, and calling my dad every Sunday. He was my rock, a quiet 62-year-old mechanic with a laugh like gravel and a heart bigger than the Rockies. 5 years back, he married Diane, a brassy 50-something with fake lashes and a fondness for gold jewelry. I didn't love her, but I loved him, so I made it work. Then cancer took him fast, 6 weeks from diagnosis to gone, and I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. The funeral was on a chilly Saturday in March, held in a small clapboard church outside Boulder. I stood at the pulpit, dressed in a simple black blazer and skirt, my hands trembling as I clutched my eulogy. The pews were half full. Dad's old garage buddies, a few cousins, his neighbor Pete with his scruffy beard, all eyes on me as I spoke. Dad taught me to see the world through a lens, I said, voice cracking, to find beauty in the rough spots. Tears stung, but I pushed on, feeling his absence like a hole in my chest. That's when Diane stood up, her black sequined dress glinting under the stained glass, and cut me off. "Enough of that!" she snapped, heels clicking as she strode to the front. Her voice was loud, brassy, slicing through the hush. "I've got something to say." I froze, paper crumpling in my grip, as she waved a document like a flag. "Bill rewrote his will last month. Everything's mine. The house, the savings, all of it. Natalie, you're out." The room gasped, a collective jolt, and my stomach dropped, cold and heavy. I stared at her, her smug red lips curling, and then at Tom, Dad's squirrely lawyer, who shuffled up beside her. "It's true," he mumbled, adjusting his tie. "Signed and notarized." Shock hit me like a slap, sharp, disorienting. "What?" I croaked, stepping down, my legs shaky. "That's impossible. Dad wouldn't—" Diane laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, he did, sweetie. Said you'd be fine with your little pictures." My little pictures. The words burned, twisting the knife. I scanned the pews. Pete's jaw tightened. My cousin Anna whispered to her husband, but no one spoke up. Grief and fury tangled in my throat, choking me. "You're lying," I said, voice low, trembling. She shrugged, adjusting her gaudy gold earrings. "Take it up with the law. It's done." I stumbled back to my seat, the eulogy fluttering to the floor, and sank down as Diane preened. Mourners shifted, awkward, some avoiding my eyes. Anna slid over, her dark hair pulled tight, and squeezed my hand. "This isn't right, Nat," she whispered. "Dad loved you." I nodded, numb, but inside, a spark flared. Hot, defiant. Diane thought she'd buried me with him, claimed every piece of his life like I didn't matter. She didn't know me at all. I'd spent years framing the unframable. Storms, cliffs, chaos. This was just another shot to nail. After the service, I lingered by Dad's casket, the polished wood cool under my fingers. Diane was outside, laughing with Tom, her voice carrying through the open door. Finally mine, all of it. My chest tightened, grief crashing into rage. I'd lost him, and now this. I whispered to the casket, "I'll fix this, Dad. She doesn't get to win." Anna found me there, her eyes fierce. "What's the plan?" she asked, voice low. I wiped a tear, jaw set. She forgot something. I'm his daughter, not her puppet. "I'll find it." That night, alone in my loft, I replayed it. The interruption, her smirk, Tom's nervous tick. Sleep wouldn't come. Fury kept me wired. Diane had staged this. I could feel it. Her greed stank like cheap perfume. She thought I'd roll over, let her dance on Dad's grave with his legacy in her claws. But I'd grown up fixing engines with him, learning to spot what didn't fit. Something was off, and I'd tear it apart until I found it. She'd forgotten one detail. I wasn't done fighting. The weeks after Dad's funeral were a gray fog, grief clinging to me like damp Colorado air. I'd stumble through my loft, camera idle on the table, replaying Diane's smug, everything's mine, until it echoed in my skull. Sleep came in fits, interrupted by flashes of her sequined dress and Tom's jittery nod. Losing Dad had carved a hole in me, but Diane snatching his legacy, our house, his savings, my childhood photos, lit a fire under the hurt. She thought I'd slink off, a grieving daughter too broken to fight. She didn't know I'd spent years framing the impossible, blizzards, dawn on icy peaks, and I'd frame her downfall just as sharp. Anna crashed at my place that first weekend, her fierce energy cutting through my haze. She stormed in, dark hair swinging, and dumped a bag of takeout on my counter. "You're not eating enough, Nat," she said, shoving a burrito at me. I took it, hands shaky, and mumbled, "She took everything, Anna, even his tools." Her brown eyes narrowed. "That witch! We're getting it back." I nodded, the burrito's warmth seeping into my palms, and felt a spark. Grief wasn't my only fuel now. "She's hiding something," I said, voice low. "I'll find it." Anna grinned, fierce. "That's my cousin." I started with the will. Diane had posted a blurry photo of it on her gaudy Facebook. Bragging rights, I guess. So I zoomed in, my photographer's eye catching a hitch. Dad's signature, usually a tight scrawl from years of signing invoices, looked loopy, off. I screenshotted it, heart thudding, and dug into our old family email account. Dad never logged out on my laptop. Buried in spam, I found gold. A draft from 6 months back. Nat gets the house, savings split, sent to Tom. No mention of Diane hogging it all. My chest tightened, hope and rage tangling. "He didn't cut me out," I whispered, printing it. Anna peered over my shoulder, her bun lopsided from pacing. "That's his handwriting, Nat. She faked it." I nodded, a plan forming. "I need more." I scoured LinkedIn next. Diane's profile popped up, a tacky headshot with too much filter. Her job history was a mess. Consultant here, entrepreneur there, gaps screaming small-time hustles. A commenter from 18 called her out, scammed me on a rental. I smirked, bitter. "She's a con, always has been." Anna laughed, sharp. "Let's con her back." I needed ammo, hard proof, so I called Mike, a PI I'd met shooting a corporate gig. He showed up Tuesday, a stocky 45-year-old in a faded jacket, gray eyes sharp behind glasses. "Heard about your dad?" he said, shaking my hand. "What's the job?" I slid him the will photo and Dad's email. "Diane's lying. Dig into her." He nodded, jotting notes. "Costs a chunk, $2,000. I winced. My savings were thin, but handed over my card. "Worth it if she falls." While Mike worked, I went subtle but public. I dusted off my Instagram, usually landscapes, and posted a black and white shot of me and Dad, his arm around me on a hike, captioned, "Justice comes slow, but it comes." No names, just vibes. Followers ate it up. 200 likes overnight, comments like, "Stay strong," and "Who did this?" I added a story. "Some people think legacies are theirs to steal." It spread, Denver locals DMing guesses. I pictured Diane scrolling, her fake lashes twitching, and grinned into my coffee. "Sweat, you thief." Mike called Friday, voice gruff. "Big fish, Nat. The notary on that will? Diane's cousin, Carol, lives in Pueblo, shady rep. I've got records tying them." My pulse raced, a thrill cutting through the fog. "You're sure?" He chuckled. "Got a photo of them at a bar last year. She's in deep. I punched the air, startling Anna from her laptop. What? She demanded. I grinned, fierce. Diane's toast. Her own family's her weak spot. But I needed more leverage. Something undeniable. Diane hosted a family gathering at Dad's house 2 weeks later. A victory lap in my childhood home. I RSVP'd, playing nice. My black sweater and jeans, a quiet armor. The place was packed. Cousins, Pete, Diane's loud friends, smelling of her floral perfume and new paint. She'd trashed Dad's plaid couch, swapped it for a gaudy velvet thing. My stomach twisted, but I smiled, phone in my pocket on record. She cornered me by the kitchen, gold earrings dangling, and smirked. Like the new look? Bill wanted me to have it all, said you'd manage. Her voice dripped venom, loud for the room. I bit back a snarl, nodding. Sure, Diane. Looks legit. She laughed, turning to Pete. See? She's fine with it. I hit stop. The audio crisp, her gloating caught. Pete caught my eye, his beard twitching with a frown, and muttered, This ain't right, kid. I squeezed his arm. It won't be for long. That night, I synced the clip to Mike's files, my arsenal growing. Diane thought she'd won, parading her loot like a queen. She didn't see the guillotine I was sharpening. Monday, Mike dropped the final bomb. Carol's notary license lapsed last year. That will's void if we prove it. I exhaled, relief flooding me, sharp, dizzying. Court? He nodded. Probate soon. Diane's pushing to seal it. Bring everything. I spent the week prepping. Dad's email, the signature analysis, the recording. My loft a war room of papers and coffee mugs. Instagram buzzed, followers sensing a storm. Spill it, Nat! I posted one last shot. Dad's old camera, captioned, Truth focuses in time. Likes hit 500. Diane's reign was ticking down. By Friday, I was ready, nerves humming but steady. Anna hugged me at the door, fierce. She forgot you're his kid, Nat. Make her pay. I smirked, grabbing my files. Oh, she'll pay. She forgot one detail. I don't quit. The probate hearing loomed, Diane's smug face waiting. She thought she'd buried me with Dad. She didn't know I'd dug myself out, lens locked on her lies. The probate hearing was set for a crisp Wednesday morning in a sterile Denver courtroom, and I walked in like I'd been prepping for this shot my whole life. My black blazer and jeans felt like armor, my files tucked under my arm a loaded lens. Diane sat across the room, her sequined black dress swapped for a garish red blazer, smirking like she'd already cashed Dad's checks. Tom fidgeted beside her, tie askew, while Anna and Mike flanked me. My crew, my backup. The past weeks had been a grind, grief, rage, late nights piecing together her lies. But today, I'd focus the frame and expose her. She forgot one detail. I'm Dad's daughter, and I don't miss. The judge, a stern woman with gray hair pulled tight, called order, her gavel a sharp crack. Diane's lawyer, a slick guy in a pinstripe suit, strutted up first. Mrs. Carter's will is airtight, he declared, sliding the document across. Signed, notarized, final. Diane nodded, her gold earrings glinting, and shot me a look, pure venom, like I was a bug she'd squash. My stomach churned, but I kept my face stone, waiting. My turn came when the judge peered over her glasses. Miss Carter, you contest this? I stood, voice steady. Yes, Your Honor, it's a fake, and I've got proof. I started with Dad's email, projecting it on a screen Mike had rigged, his draft clear as day. Nat gets the house, savings split. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Pete was there, a few funeral faces too, eyes widening. Diane scoffed, loud. That's nothing! He changed his mind! I smirked. sliding into my next shot. The will's signature, blown up beside Dad's old invoices. "He didn't write this," I said, pointing to the loopy mess. "I've framed his scrawl since I was 10. Tight, mechanic's hand. This is a forgery." The judge leaned in, her frown deepening. Tom squirmed, sweat beading, as I dropped Mike's bomb. "The notary, Carol Hensley, Diane's cousin. Her license lapsed last year. Illegal stamp." Diane's smirk faltered, her red lips parting. "That's a lie," she snapped, but I wasn't done. I hit play on my phone, her voice booming from that family gathering. "Bill wanted me to have it all. Said you'd manage." The room gasped. Pete's jaw dropped. Anna grinned. And I added, "She bragged about it. Here's the video." I synced it to the screen, Diane's smug face frozen mid-gloat. Checkmate. The gallery erupted. Whispers, a cough, someone muttering, "Crook." Diane lunged up, pointing. "She's twisting it. I loved Bill." The judge banged her gavel. "Sit down, Mrs. Carter." Her lawyer tried to recover. "Circumstantial." But Mike slid over Carol's records, notarized proof of her lapse status. The judge's eyes narrowed, scanning it all, then landed on Diane. "This is troubling," she said, voice like ice. "The will's invalid. Forgery and fraud. Estate reverts to prior intent." Diane's face crumpled, a choked sob escaping. But I felt no pity, just a cold, clean rush. Tom bolted upright, stammering, "I didn't know." But the judge cut him off. "You'll answer to the bar, Mr. Ellis." Diane glared at me, venomous, as security edged closer. "You little—" she hissed, but the gavel slammed again. "Enough. Full restitution plus penalties, $50,000 for legal fees." The room spun, relief hitting me like a gust off the mountains, sharp, dizzying. Anna squeezed my hand, whispering, "You did it, Nat." I nodded, throat tight, Dad's memory flickering in my mind. By Friday, it was mine again. The house, his savings, even the photo albums Diane had stashed. I walked through the bungalow, the familiar creak of the floorboards a balm, and found his old toolbox under the stairs. My fingers traced the worn handles, tears pricking, but I smiled. I sold a collection of his favorite hike shots, ones we'd framed together, for $20,000 to a gallery, then used the estate cash to open a studio downtown. My Instagram lit up, followers cheering "Justice served," and Diane's went dark, her brassy posts vanishing as her friends ditched her. A month later, I stood in my studio, sunlight streaming through the glass, a new Nikon in my hands. Mike dropped by, his jacket slung over his shoulder. "Heard she's selling knockoff purses now," he said, chuckling. I laughed, a sound lighter than I'd felt in months. "Fitting." Anna texted, "Proud of you, Nat. Dad, too?" I framed a shot of the Rockies from my window, peace settling in, grief still there, but softer now, wrapped in pride. Diane thought she'd buried me with him, but she forgot one detail. I'm his kid, not her pawn. Guess who's standing tall? It's wild how fighting for what's yours can reforge you. I turned her greed into my fresh start, and it feels damn good. But I'm curious. What about you out there? What would you do if someone tried to steal your legacy? Drop it below. I'd love to hear.